Netflix is raising $1.6 billion in debt as its content costs balloon. A very, very familiar story if you run a business. If your business has ever had to borrow money, or if your business has ever gotten to that point of realizing that, look, in order to get from where we are to where we want to be, we need an injection of capital. And instead of looking for investor capital, we're going to borrow. We're going to put up personal guarantees. We're going to put up our assets. We're going to do whatever we have to do to get this money to do this thing that we want to do. So Netflix today said it was raising a very large lump of debt for the typical laundry list of uses. Now, let me know if this sounds familiar to you, because Netflix intends to use the net proceeds from this offering for general corporate purposes, which may include content acquisitions, production and development, capital expenditures, investments, working capital, and potential acquisitions and strategic transactions. Okay, I've been working in finance for 20 years, working with small and medium-sized businesses. That list kind of covers every use case I think I've ever heard a business owner or an entrepreneur give me. Kind of the biggest one, though, is always the air quote working capital loan request, which is we just need money because we just need money. So you might be thinking, Dylan, why are you going off on this little rant today? It doesn't really sound like you have a point. I do have a point. Here's what it is. If you're an entrepreneur or a business owner and you're trying to find money to solve a problem in your business, guess what? Netflix is doing the same thing. Netflix is a monstrous company raising a monstrous amount of debt. But again, I like to take some examples out in the real world to try and encourage you, so that if you're feeling like you're stuck, or maybe you feel like you're the only business in the world doing something, my job is to shine some light on that and hopefully give you a little bit of energy as you go forth and try to do what it is you're doing with your business. So Netflix is basically borrowing $1.6 billion to create new content. That the idea is, if they create new content and they create new shows, that their subscriber growth will increase and the amount of money that they charge all of us will go up, and that they'll generate more money. So the idea is spend some money now to make more later. If you've been listening to this podcast or watching these videos for a while, you'll know that borrowing is really just taking the future into today and using it because you think that if you use it today, you'll be able to get a better job than just simply letting your business do whatever it's going to do. So you take from the future into today and off you go. Where most businesses run into trouble is when they take that money into today, but they don't actually have a plan for how they're going to use it. And earlier I had mentioned something about working capital, because that seems to be the catchphrase for every business owner. If we just had some working capital, we could go and do this. If we just had some working capital, we could go and do this. And while that's okay to say that, it's more prudent to actually understand exactly what you need the money for. If you borrow $1 here, how does it become $2 over here? If you borrow $1 over here, what are you going to do with that dollar to get $2 over here? Specifically, not generally. If you're going to borrow money, you got to have a plan, because the truth is the people that you're borrowing money from, they don't want to own your business, because if they did, they wouldn't be lending you the money. They would be investing the money into your company and taking a risk with you. So if you're out there running a business and you're saying to yourself, look, our ability to get to that spot that we want to get to requires a huge injection of capital today, or we just need some money. We don't really know how much we need, but we just need some money. I would caution you to just stop, take a breath, and figure out exactly what do we need the money for? How are we going to turn it into more than what we've borrowed? Because the truth is you have to pay fees, you have to pay interest, and it's going to take the cash flow from your business during the term of the loan to repay it. And so you better have a plan. So if Netflix is borrowing $1.6 billion, is that to suggest that they've got a better plan than maybe somebody running a smaller business? I don't think so. As a public company, while you still have compliance and due diligence and there's certain rules that you have to live by, Netflix may not have any of a better plan than you do. But what I am telling you is, if you can come up with a plan, if you can use money as a resource instead of a safety net, so much like you would use tools to do something specific if you were fixing an automobile or building a house, money is the same thing. It's a resource. It's meant to be used to achieve a certain objective. And where most businesses and entrepreneurs fall apart is when they just generalize and say, if I had X, then I could do Y, but they don't really know what that means. And if you listen to yesterday's podcast, usually they end up failing because they didn't have a backup plan. So when you borrow the money, your bankers or your lenders are going to make sure that you have a plan, but really it's a plan for them, not a plan for you. The plan for you should be, how are you going to benefit from that money? Whereas the bankers and the lenders, their plan is just to make sure they've got enough security against you or your business to get that money back. They don't really care about how you're going to turn it into $2. They're just protecting themselves. So they're going to make you have a plan, but the plan they make you have is going to be to cover them. You need a plan to cover yourself. How are you going to turn $1 into $2, or how are you going to turn $1 into $3 or more? Specifically come up with a plan. And then here's the irony. If you're able to come up with a good plan that's well thought out, that has addressed all of the big points, you're going to find it's easier to get the capital as well. The worst thing that you can say if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur looking for money is, we just need money because. If you're able to articulate it, if you can explain it, then you're going to have a better chance of getting it. But you're also going to now go into that particular deal with an understanding of how you're getting out of it. So if Netflix is borrowing $1.6 billion, rest assured there's a lot of businesses out there borrowing money. But the thing that you got to remember is, if you're going to borrow the money, make sure you've got a plan to turn $1 into $2, or the $1 you borrow into $3 or more. So that's all I've got for you today. If you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for watching. If you are listening on the podcast, I really appreciate it. Please make sure to rate or subscribe or like whatever it is that you're seeing here, because when you do that, other entrepreneurs and business owners are able to see this content, and who knows, you could save an entrepreneur's life today if they were able to watch or listen to this content. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you on the next episode.